historically, Pacific Ridge has been focused on the Yukon, gold projects in the Yukon. In January 2020, we entered into an option agreement with Centerra to acquire up to 75% in two copper gold projects in BC, Kliyul and Redton. Great timing. At that time, January 2020, copper was just slightly north of $2 a pound. That was very advantageous for us because of the terms of the deal were very attractive. I don't think we'd be able to get the same terms today in this copper price environment. And that was essentially a pivot for Pacific Ridge from gold projects in the Yukon to copper gold projects in BC, and it's played out very well for us. Last year, we were one of the venture's top gainers. We gained about 700%. We started the year at about 5 cents, ended it at 40, and we're trading around there today. And a lot of that has been based on the first drill hole from our first ever drill program at Kliyul. As I mentioned, we picked it up in 2020. Our first drill program was just this past summer. We completed 3 holes in about 1,500 meters, and we reported the first hole in early December, and it was spectacular. It was the best hole ever returned from Kliyul and far exceeded our expectations, and the markets responded accordingly. Forward-looking statements, I will be making many of them. I'll try not to step too far over the line, but it's my job to push it. Here we go. Why Pacific Ridge? I think we have a very strong management team, board, and technical committee. I really just don't have the time to get into it. If I were to extol our virtues, I'd eat up our 15 minutes. So please look at our management and board and technical committee at your leisure. I think we have a very attractive share structure and valuation currently. We only have about 54 million shares issued, and our market cap today is just about 20 million. Our focus is Kliyul. This is the project that we have the option with Centerra to acquire up to 75%. As I mentioned, we just launched our first drill program there this year. And the first hole was, as I said, far exceeded our expectations, 437 meters of 0.61 copper equivalent or 0.96 gold equivalent. And this was essentially starting at surface. The hole bottomed in a post-mineral dike, and then the pad shifted. So that meant we had to pull that hole. Our expectations are that if we were able to drill through that post-mineral dike, we would have carried on into additional mineralization. We're waiting for 2 more holes. It would have been great if we had the second hole to report for MIF, but I do think we will have that hole for the roundup by the end of the month. So I'm looking forward to that second hole, and we'll talk a little bit more about where these holes were drilled and what they encountered. We have several other copper gold projects in the portfolio. Redton was the other project we acquired in addition to Kliyul from Centerra, and we recently acquired another project called RDP. All these projects are located in BC. BC is really, there's been a lot of renewed interest in BC in this past year. You know, I would say over the past decade, there hasn't been much interest in porphyry projects in BC, and for a lot of different reasons, there's renewed interest from senior copper mining and gold mining companies, and you can see that with Newcrest acquisition of Pretium, Newmont acquiring GT, Fremont just did a big joint venture with Amark, and there's been a number of other joint ventures or strategic investments in BC, and I think largely that's due to the fact that there hasn't been much exploration for porphyry projects in BC this past decade. There's been increased political risk in South America or environmental concerns, say in Chile with water. So a lot of these international companies are starting to look to BC again, where there hasn't been as much exploration and where there is a lot of opportunity. And I think historically, one of the reasons why porphyry projects in BC haven't ranked as highly as some of the other projects in South America is the grade. They typically have been lower grade. But what's been happening at Red Chris, they've been discovering some more high-grade mineralization, and that's causing a lot of these other companies to start poking around a little bit more in BC. And as I said, I expect that to continue moving forward. You can see our share chart here. I joined the company last January. I thought it was a great opportunity. At the time, it had a 1.5 million market cap. It had all these projects. It had a great management team. Honestly, I thought this was a great opportunity to make money, not only for myself, but for shareholders. We achieved a heck of a lot this past year. As I mentioned, we were one of the top gainers with about a 700% gain. We raised 2.6 million and attracted some big shareholders like Delphi, a German fund, and Crescat out of the US to fund that first drill program at Kliyul. We strengthened the board. It's just been a great year, and I'm looking forward to an even better 2022. Last year, we only drilled 1,500 meters at Kliyul. This year, we're already planning a much bigger program. I'm anticipating a minimum 5,000 meters. You can see here, so we can see our BC projects, and you can see our legacy of Yukon gold projects. You have Mariposa, Eureka, Gold Cap. Fire Lake is already farmed out to a private British company called BMC. They're looking to go public. They have one final payment to make for that, and I expect them to make that payment this year, and then they will own it 100%. I imagine sometime in the near future, you'll see us spin out these gold projects. I think we need one more gold project to make that a viable newco. So we're continuing to look for other advanced stage gold assets to bolt on to start that spin out process. With respect to BC and these copper gold projects, we're continuing to look for additional copper gold projects to continue to build the pipeline, but Kliyul is absolutely the focus for us right now. This gives you an idea of Kliyul, the terrain. We're in alpine, about 1,800 meters in elevation in a saddle. Right now, it's helicopter supported, but we're only 5 kilometers off the Omanika mining road, and that's what serves Chemist to the north, and there is a power line adjacent to that road. So as far as infrastructure in northwest BC goes, it's quite good. I think if we continue to have success at Kliyul, you could make then the argument to drive in a road from that main forestry road up into the project area. As I mentioned, we have the option to acquire up to 75% from Centerra, reasonable terms. It's only 7 million in exploration expenditures, 3 million shares, and 160,000 cash. Again, that was struck in January 2020. I think the terms would be much more onerous today. It's likely, based on the exploration program we're planning for this year, we could be at 7 million in exploration expenditures to get to that 75 by the end of this year. I talked a little bit about the infrastructure. One of the reasons we liked it, it's a similar geological environment to some of these other deposits and mines in BC, but the historical drilling that's been done, and it's been limited. There's only been about 33 drill holes at the Kliyul main zone, and prior to us launching this program, only 6 deep holes, and you can see the results from that. So the porphyry potential was really only identified with this first program in 2006. Up until then, most of the drilling was shallow, targeting a near-surface magnetite skarn zone. 2006 was the first time a deep hole was drilled, and they returned that 218 meters of 0.57 or 0.88 gold. And then Teck had an option in 2015. They did 4 more deep holes, and their best hole was 245 meters of 0.52. So the hole that we just returned in early December, by far and away, was the highest grade and longest intercept return from Kliyul to date. We're looking very forward to reporting the additional holes and obviously looking at to launch and prepare for a much bigger program next year. One of the things we did do after initially acquiring the project in 2020, we launched a deeper penetrating IP. That showed that there is expansion potential at the Kliyul main zone, but also identified 2 adjacent targets that haven't been tested before. We were hoping to test those targets this year, but with forest fires in the region, a lack of qualified drillers, we weren't able to achieve the meters we wanted to. So this year, what we're looking to do is amend our permits so we can get into the project site earlier and line up our preferred drillers sooner. We need to make sure that we can achieve those sort of meters, and that means also probably moving from 1 drill rig to 2 drill rigs. In addition to the Kliyul main zone, it's just one porphyry target along a 4-kilometer mineralized trend. Most of these targets have seen limited or no drilling. I'm hopeful that we will be able to test at least 1 more target in addition to the Kliyul main zone this year. We're still finalizing our plans. So where are we? We're in the Quesnel Trough, so northwest BC. Right down here, I don't know if you can see my pointer, but we're about 400 odd kilometers northwest of Prince George. We travel along a very busy forestry road. It's a very active forestry area. There is a lot of exploration in the area also. This, in some places, is like a 4-lane dirt highway. It's actively used. It's used all year round, and we're just about 5 kilometers off it. And as you can see, we're about 50 kilometers south from Centerra's Chemist, and then you can see Mount Milligan to the south. I'll just point out RDP was a good acquisition for us last year because it's only about 40 kilometers to the west of Kliyul. So while we're advancing Kliyul, we can stage our exploration crew from Kliyul to get to RDP. A little bit on the drilling. So we have reported that first hole. I mentioned we completed 3 holes in 1,500 meters. We were hoping to achieve 2,500 meters, but as I mentioned, fires and lack of qualified drillers meant we weren't able to achieve that target. But what we did achieve was quite fantastic. We encountered significant copper gold mineralization all of the holes. Hole 36, which was the hole we just reported, was far exceeded our expectations. I'm hopeful that hole 36 and 37, again, will continue to meet or exceed our expectations. And I'm hopeful we'll see hole 37 by the end of the month so we can report it for roundup. So where did we drill? You can see this cross section here, the thick black lines. You can see 37 to the west and 38, 36. So we extended the footprint of mineralization at Kliyul main zone to depth to the west. It's still open in a number of directions. We didn't step out as much as we may have liked to in this program. That's something we'll be looking to do this year. But as I mentioned, we're seeing far greater lengths and better grades so far in the drilling that we've completed. And yeah, we're very excited. You can see some of the results here. We've broken it up here so you can see, basically from surface 12 meters to the end of hole, mineralized, 437 meters of 0.61 copper equivalent, 0.96 gold equivalent. We got into that post-mineralized dike at the end of it, the thought being again that if we were able to get through it before that pad failed, we would have continued on into mineralization. But what it shows here is that initial, say, 12 to 65, that was the near surface magnetite skarn zone. And that historically is what past operators were targeting. And again, it was only until 2006, geoinformatics drilled deeper and got into the porphyry mineralization. And I guess one other thing to point out, as we were getting deeper, you're actually getting higher grade mineralization. So that's quite positive for us also. So how do we stack up to some of these other deposits and mines we're sort of saying we're geologically similar to? Well, quite good. I mean, we have a limited amount of data, but based on some of the historical drill holes, the informatics drilled, the hole that PEC drilled, in our recent hole, if you look at the copper, you look at the gold, you look at the copper equivalent and gold equivalent, it compares quite favorably to many of these deposits and mines in BC. The real question for us is, can we get tonnage? Can we expand the footprint to the size where you can outline something that's big enough that someday could become a mine? That will be part of our focus this year. We will be stepping out further. We'll be looking to test these targets, the west and east, which have never been drilled before, and were targets identified through our deeper penetrating IP program in 2020. But now we're starting to talk about something that can have significant size. You can see your Kliyul main zone lit up here. Then you have your Kliyul west, Kliyul east. That's over 1.5 kilometers in strike. So this year, for contemplating a 5,000 meter program, let's say an average of 500 meters per hole for 10 holes, I'd say 50 to 75% is going to be in the Kliyul main zone, in the balance testing Kliyul west, Kliyul east, and possibly another target like Back Ridge. So again, when we look at the Kliyul main zone, which is right in the middle of this 4 kilometer long mineralized trend, there's a number of other potential porphyry centers. There is some data. There's not as much data to the southwest. So we will be looking to complete some more IP over Back Ridge, M39, and Paprika. And I think it's likely you will see us drill a hole into Back Ridge this year also. So suffice it to say, there's a tremendous amount of potential here. It hasn't been fully explored. And we're looking forward to launch a much bigger program next year. And if we can continue to report similar results to what we did in our first hole, I think there's significant gains still to be had with Pacific Ridge. And I hope we can see a similar return as shareholders did last year.